All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Taped Crusaders, the podcast that reviews every single superhero adaptation ever made. I'm your co-host Mike L, and as always I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're taking a look at the 1980 film Flash Gordon.
That's right, and we are joined once again by Champion.
Thank you once again for not kicking me off the podcast.
Never. You bring an enthusiasm to the podcast that is otherwise absent, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the two of you were like dead fish.
Yeah, basically. So before we jump into this, let's just talk. Let's start with you, Josh. Had you ever heard of Flash Gordon before this episode?
I have, and I've actually seen this movie a few times. My friends and I would watch it all the time as kind of this like goofy, ridiculous movie that we would kind of like laugh along with and enjoy, but you know, was funny and maybe parts where it shouldn't have been funny, but but I think all around enjoyable.
We'll get to that. Champion, had you ever heard of Flash Gordon before this?
I don't think you can be awake in modern civilization and not be aware of the concept of Flash Gordon.
You'd be surprised, but yeah.
Well,
okay.
I mean, I'm constantly surprised, but I've never read a Flash Gordon or any other comic book. I've never seen any sort of Flash Gordon anything, but I am familiar with the idea of Flash Gordon being this futuristic cliche. Almost. Or like Flash Gordon being used to describe something futuristic.
Yes.
Right.
A byword, you could say, for futurism or futuristic. Yes, absolutely.
But this is my first exposure to Flash Gordon proper.
Interesting. Okay, so let's just give, again, we refuse to do research on this, but sometimes we break our own rule. I'll just say quickly that Flash Gordon was created as an imitation or as a reaction to Buck Rogers, which we're all familiar with.
That's right.
I've hit myself in the head with a hammer enough times since watching that film that I don't remember that much of it.
Well, I can also go into the history of Buck Rogers again to remind you, but I'll skip it, okay? I'll just say that Flash Gordon was one of many imitations of Buck Rogers, but considered the best one, and in fact eclipsing Buck Rogers in popularity, mostly because of the beautiful, realistic artwork by Alex Raymond. Now, other than being, as Ian said, kind of the byword for futurism and sci-fi in that generation of readers, the other thing is that Flash Gordon was eventually adapted into a movie serial, just like Buck Rogers was, just like Superman was. And for those that don't know, movie serials were films that came out in episodes once a week. So you'd go to the theater on Saturday and you'd see episode 1, and then on up to episode, say, 10 or 15 or whatever. Now, the Flash Gordon serial made such an impression on a young George Lucas that he actually attempted to get the rights to the film in the 1970s. And when he failed to do so, he created a franchise called
Star Wars.
Graffiti. Star Wars, yes. Did you know that, Ian?
I had a sense of that. You know, my knowledge of Flash Gordon's influence on George Lucas comes from watching the Red Letter Media Star Wars sequel reviews. So I think they actually showed a few clips of those serials in there as well. Like the title crawl.
Sure.
Being something that Lucas paid homage to.
Absolutely.
Loving homage. For,
the tilt, everything. The episode, like even just calling A New Hope episode 4, right? Like that comes from the serials.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were going to say more.
No, I'm just agreeing enthusiastically.
So now I actually at one point owned one of the serials on DVD, and I watched the whole thing, and there is an episode with a Cloud City type
Interesting.
There's a scene where they, little things like, they rescue the princess and just little things like that. There's little callbacks, right, that are done in Star Wars. There's actually a music cue in Attack of the Clones that is like 100% Flash Gordon. The scene in Phantom Menace when Queen Amidala appears on that circular view screen, it has that woo, it sounds like a flute, copied from Flash Gordon, right? Just little things like that.
What general vintage would this original Flash Gordon have been? I know it's black and white, so I'm thinking 30s and 40s, but
50s?
I think it was 30. No, I think the serials were in the 30s. Yes, the 30s.
Okay.
If not the 40s, but I think by the by the 50s there would be no more serials. So I would say 40s is the latest. Yeah. And so anyway, now this movie.
It's pretty funny because this movie ended up being inspired by Star Wars.
Yes.
Because of the popularity of Star Wars at the time, 77, and then Empire came out in 80?
80.
So the same year.
Right.
So it's pretty interesting that it's kind of like came full circle.
100%. It's also, as we commented, just like Buck Rogers, it's the last time we've seen Flash Gordon live action. I'm surprised someone hasn't done it. But we should point out that this version of Flash Gordon was written by Lorenzo Semple Jr., who we know from the Batman TV show.
Oh, really?
Yes, I think he was one of the main creators and one of the main writers, absolutely. So, I love the Batman TV show. I'm not going to say anything else about that until we review it. This is directed by Mike Hodges, who I guess he wrote Get Carter, maybe the film, the original film, not the new one. He did Black Rainbow, Damien 2, Croupier. I don't really know him. Champion, you're known as the plot guy.
Am I?
Yes. Are you able to summarize the plot for us before we jump into this review?
You know, this one's a slam dunk.
Okay.
This is maybe the easiest plot I've ever had to summarize.
Okay.
Basically, we've got the evil Emperor Ming, who is some sort of galactic villain who's in control of everything.
Yes.
He notices Earth, and he wants to toy with it a little bit. So he's got these little buttons on his control panel that call up all these natural disasters. So, natural disasters start occurring on Earth, and nobody knows why. Aside from one scientist. What's his name? He's got a Russian name.
Dr. Hans Zarkov.
Dr. Zarkov, yes. Dr. Zarkov knows what's up. But before we meet Dr. Zarkov, we meet Flash Gordon, who's a quarterback for the New York Jets. It's a professional football team. And by football, I mean American football. I don't know what our international reach on this podcast is. So he's an American football star. He's on an airplane going somewhere. I don't know if it's...
I can't remember where he's going. Yeah.
All I know is
he was on vacation, I think. I remember the pilots talking about how, well, I hope Flash Gordon enjoyed his vacation. He really deserves it after all of his wins he did. And I think he was just somewhere and maybe
just
going
somewhere
home.
And coming back to somewhere. But the natural disasters continue as he is in flight, and a comet fragment that is summoned by Emperor Ming hits the cockpit of the plane and vaporizes just the pilots while leaving all the controls intact. Flash Gordon, resplendent in a t-shirt bearing his own name, happens to be studying to be a pilot. So he pilots the plane and crashes it conveniently into Professor Zarkov's not evil. He's not evil. He's just a little crazy.
Yeah.
His scientist lair. Well, he ends up being a little bit evil because he tries to kidnap his assistant at gunpoint. He identifies that the Earth is under attack, and he has built already a rocket to take him to defend the Earth somehow. He knows exactly what's up, to the point that he knows exactly how to find them and fight them. But his assistant doesn't want anything to do with it. Flash Gordon and his lovely travel agent friend Dale.
Yeah.
They crash into his science place, and he coaxes them into the rocket by saying that the telephone's in there. So this begins a long sequence of Flash Gordon being kidnapped and taken hostage.
Right.
He's first kidnapped and taken hostage by Professor Zarkov, where then they are subsequently kidnapped and taken hostage by Professor Ming. He is gassed and put to death, revived, and saved by the Emperor's daughter, who delivers him to Prince something.
We should say that in between there, we meet all of Ming's...
We meet all these races.
Yes, like
we meet the Hawk people.
Right, it's like Lord of the Rings crash course. In 5 minutes, we meet all these different races,
and they're all squabbling, and they don't care for Emperor Ming, but they're sort of under his power. There's a scene there where they're going to Flash is trying to escape, and Zarkov tosses him something that looks like a football, and he runs around doing football moves.
Yeah, he gets like flashes back to his football days.
Right.
And he wins the Heisman Trophy, but he is subdued by the henchmen. He's put to death. The Emperor's daughter takes a liking to him, though, and revives him before delivering him to Prince Baron, who is the Prince of Arborea, which is a Dagobah type planet.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's held captive there. Then he's taken captive by the Hawk people, and he just stumbles around getting captured and escaping and being captured and escaping before kind of meddling in galactic politics to the point where he convinces everyone to rise up against the Emperor.
To put their differences aside.
Then in the grand finale of the film, he crashes yet another aircraft into something to save the day. And the Earth is saved incidentally. He doesn't seem to do anything about it. Good point. Professor Ming just vanishes, and then a floating robot that we met in the beginning of the film comes and says, "Oh, by the way, Earth was saved." And that's basically it. We there's some question as to whether or not they're going to go home, and then they don't, and then the credits roll.
Okay, so before we even get to should we say something good first? Let's talk about the visuals of this film, okay?
Visually amazing. The costumes, the sets, I think it's fantastic. I can't think of anything else that looks like this, like visually. Like, it's so different. It's like the perfect blend of sci-fi and fantasy. Where like Star Wars kind of has that feel. It's definitely more science fiction with like fantasy tropes sprinkled in, but you can tell that they're in like a tangible sci-fi world in space. Yeah. This one is like so in between. It's like 50-50.
I would actually throw in Wizard of Oz into this.
Sure. Yeah.
It looks. I don't want to endorse drug use, but there are certain drugs one could ingest that would assist and augment the experience of watching this film. It looks insane, right?
Especially when they first show up on the ship, and there's like that meeting there with, right. There's all of these different creatures and lizard people, and there's like little people there, and it's so wild.
I actually think if a better director had the exact sets, it could have been more like David Lynch's Dune. Have you seen David Lynch's Dune?
I have not seen David Lynch's Dune.
Have you seen David Lynch's Dune?
No.
It's insane. It's like this, but much better, but also terrible.
Right.
But visually, it's a similar vibe of like, what in the F is going on? That's what it is, right? There's weird things like so much effort put into like first of all, the colors are right out of a comic book. Like just when it's red, it's blood red. When it's yellow, it's gold and yellow.
It's interesting that you bring up Wizard of Oz too. Like, I wasn't thinking of that at all, but now that's all I'm thinking about. And Wizard of Oz being like a very, very early Technicolor film when everything was black and white, so they made sure to dial up the color to 11, and it felt like that's what they were doing here as well.
Agreed. And like you said, you're on a set. It's interesting because you're on a set, and all these people are standing around, but you can always see like that they're floating, like there's sky in the background and clouds and stuff. And even when the ships are flying and it's clearly just a green screen, I still appreciate the fact that it looks like a tangible model, right? And also, the original Flash Gordon is from the 1930s, and these ships kind of look like 1930s Art Deco, but just brought into the 1980s, right? Like, I don't know. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of, but I'm not talking about the script. I'm talking about the look. Like the fact that it says Flash Gordon on his chest is a little ridiculous. But I can forgive that. But
I can embrace that. Because it's like it's not that they weren't trying to hide some of these things.
It's kind of like tied in with the plot though, like and the script, where in some instances it's so smart and the dialogue is like really great, and then like in the same scene it's like, did they even think about what they were writing or who was supposed to be saying what, or where Flash Gordon is going to next? Like the beginning of the movie I thought was so set up so well, and then the middle is just this crazy nothingness just to show off all of these different planets and races, and then the ending is probably the ending that they wanted. There
was a lot of world building in support of not a lot of substance.
Right.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to go to half of these places because it didn't matter.
You're totally right. You're absolutely right. Like any half decent writer could have come up with a more logical reason to be everywhere over like a weekend. But like you said, I mean, there is, Lorenzo Semple Jr. is a good writer, so maybe he had a draft in there and someone else rewrote it. Who knows? But yeah, it's like, they go to this Dagobah planet and there's like another race, and then there's the Hawkman and all these great ideas, but it's just people shouting at each other, and they want to kill Flash, and then he has a 2-second speech, and then you're right, we're gonna join you and we're gonna defeat Ming. And even like the motivations of like the princess and all that, like none of that made sense. The scientist, you're right, like was he evil, was he not, was he an asshole? The only character that really I felt was strong, partly because he was played by a great actor, was Ming the Merciless, played by Max von Sydow, who we know from Star Wars, his most famous role.
Absolutely everything.
The Exorcist.
Is it Sydow or is it Sydow? I've always called him Max von Sydow.
It's probably Sydow because he is I feel like Swedish, right?
Everybody says it different. But,
yeah,
I think
it's Sydow.
I'm Team
Max von
Sydow.
Sydow. Yeah,
I'm Team Sydow.
I think you're right. But he was also in The Exorcist. He was in Seventh Seal by Ingmar Bergman. But he's been around forever. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But yeah, his character, even in this movie, like even if it was a different director, he's one of those guys where he was perfect. I wouldn't change him at all. I thought he was great. No. So let's talk about the rest of the actors. Starting with Flash Gordon,
Sam Jones,
played by Sam J. Jones. I didn't love him. I didn't like him. He was okay, but he wasn't great. You know what? Oh, go ahead.
He was a little goofy, but not an endearing goofy.
Well, because I don't think he was even an actor. Like the guy who played Buck Rogers was a real actor. This guy, I don't think was a real actor.
He was I think an actual football player, and then he tried to get into acting.
Yeah.
Isn't this also what happened with Captain America? Wasn't that also not an actor that was like a sports person?
Actually, yeah.
Like you look the part, so we'll force you into acting because how hard can it be?
Yeah.
He wasn't great. I think that if everything else in the movie worked, I wouldn't really care if he was in it or not. Like he's just such a blank slate, because even Flash Gordon himself in this movie wasn't like, I don't know, super interesting. I feel like him being kind of like an ordinary guy plopped into all of this stuff is what makes it interesting.
Well, maybe if he had an arc, because he was just an uninteresting guy who was plopped into this futuristic setting, and he stumbled his way from one location to the next. He didn't, aside from using his football skills early on in the film, he didn't do anything except from crash a plane into something.
No, you're right.
Yeah. He didn't didn't use any of the tools that were available to him.
I wish that the plot said that they needed something from the different civilizations to defeat Ming.
Yep.
So that way there's a reason why he's traveling from place to place, and he's got to convince them to give up something, so that way all of their powers combined can defeat him or something. And then it gives him something to do. It gives them a reason that they're going to all of these places, and
aside from just getting captured,
and if he's like the captain of the football, well, I guess there's no captain of the football team in the NFL, but he can show that his leadership skills in his profession kind of transfers over to this with his strength, and they could give him something.
Instead, he just kind of stumbles through the story, right?
Sure, yeah, for sure.
That's the thing, is I think the old 1930s serials actually had better writing, from what I remember.
Did the old serials? What was Flash Gordon's story? What was his backstory in the original?
I believe
ones?
it was the same. That's the thing, is Buck Rogers, as far as I remember, was frozen and revived in the 25th century. But Flash Gordon, I think, is in the current day. It's just that he's traveling to other.
I think he played a different sport originally.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't a football
rugby
player.
or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So I think,
but roughly
this
the
is
same.
kind of,
yeah.
Always who he's been. Maybe we'll talk about Dale.
Sure.
Played by Melody Anderson. She was pretty good, I thought, in like the limited. I feel like she was kind of thrown into the background afterwards.
Yeah, it was weird. There was only like 3 women, but I couldn't keep them. I couldn't remember who was who after a while.
Yeah, there was the
princess.
The princess, who I was so lost as to what her motivations were.
Right.
And then she was with Flash Gordon, and then we saw her with Prince Baron. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden she was back and being tortured by Ming's henchmen.
Yes. With the mask?
Yeah, with the mask. I was like, I can't remember how she even got back there.
I think Prince Baron was also the Imperial doctor or something like that. Right. So he came under suspicion once Flash Gordon was revived. I think that her relationship with Prince Baron was sort of like a murmury secret. So people suspected once, okay, this must be what happened.
Oh, okay.
Especially since she had asked, I believe she'd asked her father, she'd asked Ming, hey, save his life. I want this guy.
Yeah.
For a little bit at the beginning. So when he did come back to life, it didn't take too much to figure out what had happened.
Yeah, she was okay. The actress who played the original was actually better. Oh, yeah. I don't remember her name. I just had it up, but I lost it. But yeah, she was better. I mean, so was the original Flash Gordon.
I feel like she had a little bit more to do even at times than Flash Gordon. Like her escaping the like encampment, like her tricking the other like slave woman to drink the like special potion instead, and then like swapping point. I feel like she had more motivation to do something.
She was clever. She did things.
Yep.
So
now we're not going to talk about every actor in this because there's not really much to say. However, we've got to talk about Timothy Dalton.
We have to talk about Timothy Dalton.
First of all, you're familiar with his role as James Bond.
Yes.
I'm a fan of those movies. I've only seen them, I believe, once.
I've never seen a James Bond movie.
None.
Never seen a James Bond movie. I am familiar with Timothy Dalton from his
Looney
stellar
Tunes
role
back in action.
Spice World.
Hot Fuzz.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
as
awesome.
Mr. Skinner, the supermarket king.
Yes. Wow. Okay, I can't say enough about Hot Fuzz, but that being said, you should watch. There's some James Bond movies you have to see. Like I have a box that I can lend you.
Well, I can. Yeah, I can. Or you can. I can watch them legitimately from my sources.
Okay.
After I watch Hot Fuzz again, now that I got that in my head,
of course,
it's probably gonna happen.
But he was great in this movie. Like he again going back to that whole thing about British actors is he gave that role his all, right? Like he believed in his role and didn't phone it in. So yeah, he was perfect. I thought. What do you think,
he was fun.
Josh? Yeah,
his role and his acting almost reminded me of like The Princess Bride, like Inigo Montoya, kind of like hamming it up. He felt like he knew what movie he was in. You know, like with his acting and kind of how he portrayed the character. Like it was campy.
Okay, so
in a good way. I think.
So not what I said, because I felt like he was almost like so serious that he was acting like he wasn't in a campy movie, but you think he was?
I think so. I think it was like a balance.
I don't think they told him it was a comedy.
You're both right.
Yeah.
I think you're both right. Like, he was almost campy in his seriousness.
Yes. Right. Like Leslie Nielsen, Naked Gun.
Yes. It's a great parallel. It's a great parallel.
There you go. I will also want to talk about, he didn't really do much, but Philip Stone, who played Zogi. Zogi. Now, I don't know if you remember this guy, but he was in The Shining. Remember? You've seen The Shining,
I've seen The Shining twice this year.
Yeah.
What was his role in this?
In this film, he was... sorry, I'm using my phone here. I should have my laptop open. He was... How can you not remember Zogi? I can't remember his name. Zodi.
The high priest? Philip Stone, Zogi the high priest. Was he just the guy that was wedding them?
Hold on a sec here. I don't remember what his role was. I just remember when I saw him, like, oh yeah, that's that guy. Zogi? He was the high priest.
Yeah, so the guy that was, like, officiating the wedding?
Yeah, but he had a bigger role than that, I think. I don't know. I should know these things. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm limited by what I can see on my phone. But he was awesome.
Great.
Anyway,
I don't quite remember, but...
I'm just trying to think of the actors that we would know from other things. There's also this guy here, Robbie Coltrane, the man at the airfield.
Yeah.
Who I believe was in
Harry Potter. He was
Yes,
Hagrid.
that's right. Okay.
And I also want to point out I really liked Brian Blessed, who played Prince Voltan. He was the leader of the Hawkmen. I thought he was great. I don't know. There was something about him. I don't know. I really liked his character.
What actor was he?
Brian Blessed.
I thought he was overacting. He got on my nerves.
I
He
loved
was
it.
definitely
Yeah, of course.
overacting.
Of course he was overacting.
Yeah,
you might also recognize him as the leader of the Gungans.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Come on. Wow. See, clearly Lucas cast him for a reason, right? Wow. Okay. That makes total sense.
Yeah,
wow.
Boss Nass.
So I'm surprised as a fan of the Phantom Menace, Mike, that
I didn't know that.
you didn't notice that right away.
Damn.
Why is this voice so familiar?
Yeah, I guess I should have known that.
Yeah, he was great. I really loved him. I loved how much he hammed it up. I think this movie still is great because of its campiness. I think its goofiness and almost the parts that don't work in the film age it better than if it were just played straight. I think it would have aged okay. I think it would have been kind of a forgettable whatever movie.
Well, I'm going to say one more thing, okay?
Sure, yeah.
This actor, oh geez, help me out, folks. Okay, Peter, is it Weingart?
Peter Weingart.
Peter Weingart, okay. I could be wrong.
Was he the guy in the mask? The head of their secret police?
I believe so.
Okay.
But here's the thing. I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong, that, yes, here. He played, Josh, you're like this. He played a character or part of a group of characters on an episode of The Avengers TV show, the British TV show.
Okay.
That inspired John Byrne and Chris Claremont to create the Hellfire Club.
Oh,
and they based,
interesting.
They based, what's his name? In the comic book, Weingart is one of the guys. Not Sebastian Shaw, the other guy.
Oh,
Weingart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Peter. It's something else.
Yeah.
He's named after the actor that played this guy in the show. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So I just had to bring that up. Let's talk about... We talk about sort of things that make this film last or stand out or whatever, stand the test of time. What about the soundtrack by Queen?
Great.
First, Ian, are you a fan of Queen?
Queen's all right. Like they're at times they're spectacular. At times I don't care.
I agree.
They're relevant. They're influential. How much did they have to do with this soundtrack? Because I like the opening and closing credits song is some of the worst music I've heard in my life.
The third and the fourth. You know, they play it so many times. He's going to save every one of us.
The incidental music was fine. I was making a point of listening to it as I'm watching the film because I know that Queen's involved. I'm thinking, like, are they doing all the scoring or just the stuff where we're rocking out?
I think mixed. I think that there's definitely some parts of the score where it feels like it's like a rock and roll song.
Okay.
Which obviously is stuff that they've done.
Yeah.
I can answer your inquiry.
Answer my inquiry.
The amount they had to do with the soundtrack was they wrote all of it.
Okay.
If you look at the songs here, they're written by Brian May, Roger Taylor, Freddie Mercury, Taylor. So it sounds like they wrote almost everything. And I did read that this was one of the first films to have an all pop soundtrack. Like at the time, this was very unusual. So I think even when it was like incidental score, it was them writing it.
Mm-hmm. If that's the case, I'm a little impressed.
Yeah.
I'm a little impressed at their range as musicians.
Because I had assumed it was just that Flash song, and then there was like one or two times I think that they played kind of like an instrumental rock song during like some of the like fight sequences or whatever.
Hate.
Really?
Oh my god, I hate hearing an electric guitar riff in a movie.
So do I.
I hate it. I don't know what it is. It just like that genre of music just does not work for me.
Here's the thing. Because I love rock music, but I have this theory that rock music and like film, it's almost like a double negative. They can't go together. It's like, you know what I mean?
Interesting.
It's like matter and antimatter. Yes. They can't coexist
they just can't.
in the same space.
It's almost like you have artifice on top of artifice, or camp on top of camp, and they can't. It's like there's too much. And so when you hear the electric guitar, it's like even though I love electric guitar, in and of itself, it has like a campiness to it. And then when you combine it with what you're seeing, it's like, no, I can't take this. It doesn't
really. That's so interesting, because
I
think that for something like this, it works perfectly. I feel like for something like
this movie,
I feel like for something that is like this campy, go all out. Like, why go halfway?
All gas, no brakes.
Yeah.
Like, I understand.
Why not have like a crazy electric guitar solo while he's crashing a 50s style spaceship into the ground and stabbing the bad guy through? Like, it's I think it's fantastic.
It's almost like if you're going to go that route, I'd almost wish, you've seen Mad Max Fury Road, right?
Yes.
I love that movie. You remember when you see like the guy like chained to the front of the thing playing guitar? It's almost like in this movie, go even further. Like, almost make it a musical, so that when he's about to go into action, they go, maybe not have him sing, but have like Freddie Mercury, here we go, I don't know why,
like something,
narrating, he's gonna save the day, blah blah blah, and just go crazy, like even go crazier, because the one thing about the soundtrack is it became repetitious, not just with the flash chorus, but also that that pulsating, like
boom 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 boom.
It just I started to drive me crazy. That I hated. You hated the electric guitar. I hated the pulsing.
See, I agree that the repetition of the Flash song did get annoying, but I didn't mind the motifs. Like, I liked the boom 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 boom. I like the electric guitar. I don't know. To me, that's what made it like so much fun to watch.
Sure.
Was just how like balls to the wall camp like goofiness they went.
Yes.
I liked that, because I think without that it would have been kind of boring. I don't know.
You're probably right. You're probably right. And this does not temper my distaste for rock music and movies, but no, you are probably right. I probably would have fallen asleep midway through it if it wasn't for
the reddest of red costumes. Why not go for like the craziest, rock and roll songs for the soundtrack?
The theme song was the Hawkmen wings of music.
I don't know. I think that's, for me, that was the charm of watching this movie, and why I went back and watched it a few times with friends.
I'm trying to find, I know that this is an audio podcast, but I'm trying to find examples of the I just want to go back to the cinematography briefly.
Sure, yeah.
Here we go. Now again, folks, if you're listening at home, you just have to Google Flash Gordon cinematography, okay? But here we go. There's we didn't even talk about this, that fight scene on top of the
spikes,
the tilting
spikes. Again, I just want to point out, all these scenes, there's always that background with the sky. You know what I mean?
It's so wild. I mean, even when that evil doctor, the head of the secret military, dies on the spike, he doesn't just fall and die. He has to turn into a stone, and then we get a close up of his face, and his eyeballs and tongue are melting out of his face.
Yes.
Why? Because he was just stabbed with a spike. But it's just
I love
everything
that.
Is insane.
Yeah. Or when I think it's the third female character that we didn't touch on, who is the. She's like some sort of evil assistant sort of person. Her role isn't really explained, but
who is she?
She's always on the microphone directing where people are. Flash Gordon's over here. You should go get him.
The queen,
kinda,
or the empress. But
then when she was killed, she melted into a liquid and just trickled away.
Why not? Yeah, you're right.
General Kala.
That sounds
so I guess she was
her.
just another general. Yeah, I don't know. Everything about this movie is just.
But the cinematography. You're right. You could just tell by looking at it that they put ridiculous amounts of thought into everything. Ridiculous amounts of effort to to work on things in the background that you're never going to see.
Right.
After what's his name, General Clytus was killed, and the Hawkmen are freaking out, like, you've doomed our planet. We all have to escape, grab everything you can carry, and fly away. And as Flash Gordon's telling him, no, now is the time to attack. Through that window at the back, where Mike, you were saying, look at those clouds and this back there, you can see hundreds of little tiny wing flapping Hawkmen flying away in the background.
Right.
Nobody's going to notice this. I mean, I noticed it.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you wouldn't have noticed if it wasn't there.
No. The film didn't need it.
Yeah.
And then later on, when they do attack, there are more Hawkmen, each of them, and I'm looking deep into the background, and they're all flapping their wings. Hundreds.
Right. That's awesome.
This almost feels like a fan film of just somebody who liked reading the Flash Gordon comics, and they put all of this attention to detail in these things.
Yeah.
But then the story, they were like, I don't know, we'll figure it out as we go. Flash Gordon's going to go to all these planets and then fight the big bad guy at the end and save Earth. Who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, because like you were saying, that's like so specific, and they made sure that you see all of these little Hawkmen leaving in the background, but they couldn't think about why Flash Gordon has to stick his hand into like a scorpion tank a bunch of times.
I forgot
and
about
fight.
that. Oh my god!
It's just like I don't know.
I think that it's because it's a team, and obviously the people who did the effects were A grade, right? The people, the cinematographers, the costume designers, even like this, like riding like a sky cycle, like just,
so awesome.
That jet ski that he was flying around on. So
cool, which was then later used in He-Man. Remember He-Man had that too? He had like a sky cycle,
This kind of reminds me of He-Man.
Oh yeah,
like everything in this
instead
too.
of the Hawkmen, you had Stratos. Who's from like a race of Hawkmen type thing. Yeah, like there's a lot of ideas carried over into other things.
You know, watching it again this time, when they're fighting each other on that platform, and then there's the spikes and everything, I don't know why it also reminded me of the Transformers movie as well, the
like
animated one.
86? Yeah, I can see that.
When they're fighting like the Sharkticons in that like tank, and then they end up dropping down, and the
good point.
Quintessons are like telling them their fate and like the trial and everything. There's just so much that I feel even from this was kind of like brought into other things too.
Underrated movie, Transformers the movie. I agree. I mean, so here's the thing. I guess the question now is, why has there not been an adaptation since then? I mean, wouldn't this make the perfect movie in 2000? Isn't this what 2023 needs, Josh?
No.
Okay.
The reason why is they're not going to make a movie like this again today.
Oh, let's be clear.
It would not be this.
No, I know what it would be. It would be like
it would be Captain America: The First Avenger. It would be like
serious.
It would be serious. There would be like
an incredible supervillain.
I don't know. I mean, it's just
okay. Let's put it this way. Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy?
No.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'm in my Marvel Cinematic Universe. I believe I am up to Iron Man 3.
Okay. Okay, you're a little behind. That's okay. I'll just say that I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is half comedy. I'm not saying it. Flash Gordon should be like that, but there's some Guardians of the Galaxy. There's some Flash Gordon Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, they do the costumes right, the bright costumes. They do the sci-fi, the humor. Yes, like.
And doesn't Guardians of the Galaxy have rock music?
Yeah,
the music.
100%. Yeah. If they were to do Flash Gordon like close to Guardians, but not as wacky, I think that would be as good as we could get it. Yeah. So I think it could be done. And again, the rights are floating around somewhere. Someone has them. I'm surprised someone hasn't said, hey, like, you know, you have Disney, you have Warner. Why doesn't another company go, let's build our universe around Flash Gordon and the Phantom and something. I don't know, the Shadow. I don't know what. I'm not saying they should create a universe because I don't even like universes. Yeah. But I'm just saying someone else could have
in terms of universes, this Flash Gordon film did a pretty good job of creating a universe
world.
Sure, I mean shared continuity between movies. I don't like that, but I know what you're saying.
But in terms of setting something up, right? They've already done a good job with this one.
Well, you figure there's decades of comics to adapt. Like they could have kept doing this forever, but unfortunately the movie didn't do very well.
I think too they've tried to adapt old serials in like modern day. Like they tried with John Carter of Mars, and that one did not do well.
Which was actually a decent movie.
It was okay.
Yeah,
from what I remember it, but it flopped.
But let's be clear. I mean, I don't want to get into a John Carter thing, but the biggest reason it flopped is because they were afraid of the title. It was supposed to be called John Carter of Mars.
Yeah, and they just call it John Carter.
Let's just call it John. And then when you hear John Carter, you go, wait, John Carter? Get Carter? Like John Reacher? Like what is John if you put Mars in there, you go, boom, sci-fi, right? But they killed it. They deserved to fail, I think. But it was a good movie, though, I thought. Yeah. Generic actor playing the lead role. Did you see John Carter?
I did not.
It was okay. It was pretty good. It was, I'm sure, like, I never saw Lone Ranger with Johnny Depp.
Yeah, not great.
Okay, not great. Okay.
That one was not great. So I would love to see something like this, but I feel like it would not be what we think.
No, but if someone did it right, like the way, well, there you go, Denis Villeneuve, he did Dune completely straight. Some people think it's too dull almost. Maybe it could be a little bit more fun, but if someone could do it straight, but just with a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy fun, that would be great.
Or go crazy like this and just like crazy, flashy, fun, goofy just make space the story fantasy. Better. Yeah. There you go. So, Champion, are you going to dig up more Flash Gordon material? Are you going to dig out the old serials?
I am actually a little intrigued.
Okay.
I'm a little intrigued. I may check them out. Cool. Not right away. This was a bit of a mushroom trip of a film.
Okay.
And I'm feeling a little sleepy and dehydrated after sitting through it.
Fair.
But no, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This one was a lot of fun.
More fun than Buck Rogers, the TV show?
Oh my God. So much more fun.
Yeah. This was, I mean, like I didn't know what was going on in this movie half the time. Nor have I known what's going on in half of the movies that we've been watching lately. But this one, there was enough interesting things. There was enough stuff that was done really, really well that I'm all right. Yeah. Okay. I'll Flash Gordon a little bit more.
Awesome. Josh, are you interested in watching more Flash Gordon?
Probably not watching anything that's out currently. If they were to do something new, I would be interested, and I would also be interested to see if there are any like maybe a little bit more modern comics that's similar to this.
Yeah, there are modern comics, but I don't think they're like this. But
gotcha. Yeah, because I feel like the world is so interesting that I feel like in the right hands with somebody who is passionate about it, like writing it, I think it could be really great. Even a continuation of this version of Flash Gordon in comics. Right. It's almost like a sequel series. It could be great.
Yeah, I agree. So there you go. Like I said, I've seen these serials from the 30s. They are definitely entertaining. And I've actually used to own 2 of the hardcovers. They're very dated, but they're, again, the art by Alex Raymond is great. So if you're into that, definitely check them out. Check out this movie. Don't take our word for it. Watch this film. The visuals are incredible. So definitely don't just Google the images. Actually rent the film or buy the film or watch it some way. So there you go. Flash Gordon, 1980 with a Queen soundtrack. We want to thank Champion for joining us again.
Thank you so much.
And also being our technical producer, technically.
Oh, yes. We're speaking into microphones that I brought in a little suitcase.
There you go. Provided by Champion and Meteor, correct?
That's right.
All right. And that's it. And on our next episode of Taped Crusaders, we are going to be reviewing Superman 2 with special guest, hopefully special guest Jordan Krug. If you're looking for more Champion, I believe you'll be back in 2 episodes from now.
Okay, what do we got?
For our review of Swamp Thing. Wes Craven's Swamp Thing. Have you seen that?
I've got a copy of it.
Interesting.
I haven't seen it, but it's on my list.
There you go.
That's exciting.
This dovetails quite nicely.
Bump that sucker up. There you go. Okay. And Josh, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thanks so much for listening to our podcast. You can find all of our stuff on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. You can also find our stuff on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook. Please leave us a comment or a review. Let us know what you guys think about the movies and the comics and the stuff that we're talking about. Let's keep that comics conversation going, so keep in touch.
That's right. Until the next time, see you later.
All right.